Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is former New Orleans Mayor and current National Urban League President Mark Morial. Mark Morial, who's a better dancer, you or Michelle Miller, your wife?
Michelle Miller.
Hands down?
Hands down. She's a better dancer, but you know what? I work hard to keep up.
There you go. We'll hear all about that this week on Let's Talk.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we will cover all the home teams. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans. Even we'll again touch on the UFC 318 fight that's happening here in New Orleans this weekend and break it down for us. Jeff Duncan, columnist for New Orleans Times-Picayune, advocate, NOLA.com, and of course contributor at Fox 8 Sports, and accomplished author as well. Jeff, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
Good to have you. Before we get started, again, Fox 8, you guys got a lot of stuff going on at the Picayune right now with training camp getting ready to start. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're getting ready to go full court press, right? It's always a busy time of year. Expectations high for a lot of the teams, and our coverage at Fox 8 will be kicking off this weekend. I'm going to be joining Madeline Adams on our show and previewing Saints training camp, which I always say every year, Eric. I mean, it starts in late July and you look up and it's like December. You know, I mean, it's amazing how quick it all goes. And this will be year 26 for me on the Saints beat, which is amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah, when way back when you started, do you think it'd be 26 years of doing it?
Right. Yeah, I can still remember like first training camp and
which was
in
Coach?
Thibodeau. It was Jim Haslett.
Jim Haslett, right?
That was the first one, but Haslett and Mueller took over, and there were no expectations for that team. They were 3-13 the year before, and they surprised everybody. Won the NFC West Division, won the first playoff game. So you can thread the needle in the NFL.
Yeah.
We saw it happen in 06. But I know we're going to talk about this, but expectations for this team are lower than I can ever remember with the Saints team. And they don't have a veteran like a Jeff Blake or a Drew Brees at the most important position. That's right. And that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, we're going to get in a moment. I did want to mention, again, a huge event that's coming to the city this weekend, and it's the UFC 318. Of course, WrestleMania was supposed to be coming to New Orleans. It ended up going to Las Vegas to kind of make up for that. We've got UFC 318, and I believe, again, a money bag situation that's coming in from WrestleMania. Dustin Poirier will be taking on Max Howling for the BMF lightweight championship. Brendan Allen will take on Marvin Vetter for the UFC middleweight championship. Carly Junis and versus Nicole Collier for the women's flyweight championship. And of course, a lot of great, again, MMA fighting, which is really, again, kind of taken over. I mean, I was a guy growing up, loved boxing, okay? I mean, I grew up watching Wide World of Sports and checking out all the great boxing, again, even again then into the pay-per-view, and then, of course, boxing that exploded when ESPN came online. And now it seems as that again, the UFC and mixed martial arts, MMA, seems to be, again, the where the sport is going now when you talk about combat sports.
And, you know, New Orleans used to be a big boxing town.
Yes.
To have a lot of championship fights here, and it really is kind of fallen off the radar screen in our city. So getting UFC, a major event like this here, is, I think, a start for the city to maybe get back into that rotation and get some of these fights. Or obviously, you got the local connection with Poirier, but I do think it's nice to get something like that on the docket for local sports fans, because it's been a long time since we've had a fight of this caliber here.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And again, Dustin Poirier's last fight, again, so and again, looking to be able to get this championship. But again, this is it's not WrestleMania that, again, and the type of economic impact that we were expecting. But again, it is a nice event, and again, an event from what I understand, there'll be a lot of people there. There are some local gyms, a lot of local gyms that again are mixed martial arts in the city that are, again, putting out some really good fighters. There's an event at the Pontchartrain Center almost every single month with again mixed martial arts. So it's really catching on here in the city as well.
And here's another thing I'd say: it comes at a time when it's typically very slow. Sports calendar for us. July is not typically a time of year that we get a major sporting event, so it's nice to fill that void as well, kind of bridging over to football season.
I would agree. And again, it's not WrestleMania and it's not the economic impact, but again, this is going to be a big deal here this weekend in New Orleans. Let's talk some Saints. Again, they start their training camp on Wednesday. I guess the first question for everybody is the quarterback situation, and again, who will be the starting quarterback? And I've discussed this on the radio show for really the last week, and everybody has varying opinions on, again, who will be the starter. I want to ask you this question. Obviously, again, everybody believes that because Tyler Shuck was the 40th overall pick, and that's supposedly Moore's guy, that they feel, again, that he's the odds-on favorite to be able to get the job. But again, something can be said about the 7 games that Spencer Rattler had in terms of NFL experience, even though he's 0-6. He's got something that Shuck doesn't have, which is NFL experience. How do you think this is going to play out? Will Rattler's experience give him the edge here, or is, again, the fact that Shuck was drafted by this team and they want to see him on the field as quickly as possible, will that trump the experience of Rattler?
Well, look, I don't think anybody knows who's going to win the job. I don't think the Saints know.
Okay.
You know, there's no way to know until they play it out. But I would say, I think if all things are equal, it's going to be Tyler Shuck. I don't think they drafted him with that valuable of a pick if they didn't intend for him to be the starter. But he's going to have to win it in camp. I mean, they're not going to hand it to him. And it wouldn't surprise me if, because of that experience you talk about, if Rattler were to win the job out of camp and then eventually get replaced by Shuck as he gets more proficient and more comfortable in the offense. I think he's the guy. I think doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the guy week 1.
Now, you've seen a lot of Tyler Shuck, again, being a Louisville graduate, watching Louisville play football. Talk a bit about him.
Well, I mean, I think people need to know, I mean, he was a highly, coveted recruit out of high school. Now, so was Spencer Rattler.
Yes.
But if you had them stand next to each other in the locker room, Tyler Shuck is 6'5". I mean, he's a legit 6'5". He looks the part, sure, of what you look for in a prototypical NFL quarterback. The thing that NFL people talk about with him is there's really not a lot of gray area in the evaluation of how he's going to handle the transition, because Louisville runs an NFL offense under Jeff Brom. So there's not a lot of guesswork. You kind of know what you're getting with him. Whereas, say, a guy like Jackson Dart, who played in Lane Kiffin's system, which is a totally unique college system, there's some projection there that you got to make. And I know Sean Payton had the same thing with Bo Nix, and that offense with Oregon, he felt like he's going to make that transition, and he did. But you just never know with some quarterbacks. That's not the case with Shuck. He's a good athlete for his size. I've seen a lot of people talk about, he doesn't handle the pressure that well. No quarterback really does. I mean, it's not. That was something that every you look at every efficiency metric on any quarterback, they go plummet as soon as they get pressure. I think the thing the Saints like about him is, in addition to all the physical traits, is his intangibles, his maturity, his ability to handle adversity. He's been through a lot in his college career, going from Oregon to Texas Tech to Louisville. They feel like there's going to be some growing pains for whoever wins the job. He's wired to handle the ups and downs that are going to come with being a rookie thrown into the mix like he probably is going to be this year.
And to your point, going to multiple schools, having to play in multiple systems, how much that will help him, and again, in digesting an NFL system.
Yeah, and he's been in a very complex system at Louisville where they asked him to do a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage, like the Saints did with Drew Brees, where they asked him to make checks and adjustments at the line of scrimmage. That's unusual for a college quarterback to do at the level he did it, and I expect that was a big advantage for him coming out of college, is that a lot of coaches see this guy can handle a lot of stuff like Louisville put on him. But the thing that worries me a little bit about either of these quarterbacks is this team good enough around them? They don't have the luxury of coming in with a built-in juggernaut offense. I mean, this is gonna be difficult unless they can run the ball, which I think that's probably what Kellen Moore's entire strategy is going to be.
Agreed.
Take the pressure off these young quarterbacks and try and control the line of scrimmage with that offensive line, which should be better. If they're healthy, you got a lot of first-round draft picks up there. That's got to be the bread and butter of this offense, not necessarily the right arm of Rattler or Shuck.
Yeah, I want to stay with Rattler for a moment. Why, if he wins the job, why does he win the job?
I think because he's got more experience right now, and I think he's going to have to win the job out of camp. I mean, he's going to have to play well, all these guys. This is another aspect that I think is interesting in this quarterback competition, is because of the limitations and the restrictions from the NFL Players Association on off-season practices, the Saints really haven't seen enough live action.
Right.
There's not really any pass rush with these guys.
7-on-7.
Right. It's T-shirts and shorts basically. Right. They're not going to, in the first week of camp, they're not going to get that. So really we're going to see the second week of training camp, and throughout these practices, they don't have any joint practices. That's a big detriment, I think, for the evaluation. These preseason games are going to be huge in the evaluation of these two guys, and I think it's going to come down to who performs better in those moments. I don't think they're going in with any. I think it's a wide open slate for both guys, and I really think it's a two-man race. I don't think Jay Kaner is a part of it. But just like I think Sean Payton at one time thought Taysom Hill was the heir apparent, I know he did, to Drew Brees, and he got beat out by Jameis Winston. I think the exact same thing is going to happen here, where you might think Tyler Shuck is the guy, but he's got to win it. Right. Just like I think Peyton thought Hill was, but he went with Jameis Winston.
First four games are pretty arduous on this schedule for the New Orleans Saints. Do you think that plays into the thought process? Do you throw Shuck out there in the first four games against, again, tough opponents, or do you allow him to kind of ease his way in, maybe let Rattler be the starter? Do you think that has any bearing on this? No,
I would be surprised if that factored in at all. I think this staff is going to want to have success early on to build confidence, to build buy-in from the roster. That's going to be critical early on. I mean, that's one of the things that worked for Sean Payton, is they won 3 games right out of the gate. Right. And he was tough on those guys, but when they saw success, he got buy-in. I think they need to get that early on, especially with a veteran team like they have. I mean, they still have a lot of veterans on this team. They've been through some ups and downs recently, and I think Kellen Moore and his staff need to be successul early on. And I think it's going to be difficult. Right. The expectations, though, are so low for this team. They can kind of go into this season with a chip on their shoulders. They're in an unusual position because usually the Saints are one of the teams expected to win the division. Yes. Now no one's predicting that. I've seen people pick them to win 2 games this year. So I think there is something to be said for, it can't get a whole lot worse than what a lot of people expect it to be.
I know you'll be making some predictions down the line. What's realistic for this team in terms of wins and losses?
I think it'd be a successful season if they go around 500. Right. That's realistic. The defense is coming off a year where they went 30th in the league. They really haven't done a whole lot to change that defense. I know they brought in Justin Reed, but it's really the same cast they're running it back with. hoping that the coaching staff and the new scheme change will get more out of him. But I think that defense is a real issue. So, the offense has some players in their prime, I think some reasons to be optimistic. But if they can't early on get enough offense, I think this defense could really get exposed like they did down the stretch last year, where they were non-competitive when they played the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Green Bay Packers and the Denver Broncos. And that defense, as much as we talk about the injuries the team had last year, the defense didn't have hardly any.
No.
They didn't have hardly any, and they were finished 30th in the league. That's my biggest concern.
And rightly so. And then, of course, morphing from a 4-3 to a 3-4 with, again, the prototype of players that they've been drafting really during the Peyton era. Again, how do those guys now transition to a 3-4? And then how much of a 3-4 will we see this season?
Well, I think that's one thing that people need to really come to grips with right now is this is going to be a multi-year transition because of the personnel. They have a lot of misfit toys, if you will, in this scheme. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. I think Brandon Staley's smart enough to know that he's got to really kind of navigate this transition one step at a time. I don't know if they'll necessarily be a true 3-4 this year. I think they're going to be in a lot of 4-5 down lineman looks. They're going to be really multiple. But I'm just for being completely honest, there's some guys on this defense that don't fit the scheme.
I would agree.
Cam Jordan's a good example. He's a 4-3 defensive end. At this stage of his career, he's kind of miscast. So I think his role is going to be reduced. He's probably aware of that. Guys like Colin Saunders don't really fit. Wouldn't surprise me if he were cut out of training camp. Nathan Shepard, same thing. There's just a lot of guys that don't fit what they're trying to do. And that's why I think this thing's going to take a little while before it gets better.
How does Brzee fit, in your opinion?
I think he's okay at the defensive end spot. Yeah, he's okay. I mean, the thing he's got to get better at is the run defense. I mean, he's a huge liability. That was the knock on him coming out of Clemson, and he hasn't really improved that much. Hopefully Bo Davis, a new staff, gets more out of those guys. To me, some of the problems they had were in coaching the last couple of years, offensive line and defensive line. They've invested a lot there. They got a lot of high draft picks. They haven't got a lot out of it the last couple of years. So maybe the scheme change and the coaching change boost some of these guys like a Brzee. But, they ask those defensive ends in this scheme to be great run defenders, and that's been a weakness of his.
Absolutely.
He's one of the worst in the entire league.
Yeah, right.
In the entire league. He's got to get better.
Cornerback, defensive backfield is a question mark, especially where Alontae Taylor will ultimately land. And then, of course, again, how will they look at cornerback with the inexperience they have there as well?
Well, I think what's going to happen right now early on, unless they go out and get somebody, which wouldn't surprise me if they brought in a veteran, I think what's going to happen early on, Alontae Taylor's going to start at one corner, Kool-Aid McKinstry will be the other corner, and then when they go to sub packages, he'll move inside at that star position. I mean, he's being basically positioned in the star role that Jalen Ramsey played. I mean, it's been the star position, the playmaking position in the scheme traditionally, and they think he can fit that role.
I agree.
But it's the role that he's going to be in most of the time in the sub package. So they need someone else to step up and be the outside corner. They drafted Quincy Riley, I think, to be that guy eventually, but he missed the entire offseason. He's a total question mark. We have no idea. That's why it wouldn't surprise me to see them bring in another corner. But at this stage, what I keep trying to mention to people is it has to be a two-way street. A lot of players, Keenan Allen's a good example on offense, they're not going to want to go to New Orleans right now. They have no quarterback situation. They're in full-blown transition. Players, veteran players that have skins on the wall, they want to go somewhere where they can chase a ring. That's not New Orleans right now. So it has to be a two-way street.
Yeah, I would agree. Linebacker core. Again, you mentioned Young and Granderson now will be standing up on the outside. You've got inside linebackers with obviously Demario Davis and Werner. How do they work in a 3-4 package if they're going to play that 3-4 package?
Well, if it works the way Staley wants it, the interior three defensive linemen eat up all the blocks, freeing up these outside and inside linebackers to pursue the ball carrier. That's ideally how you want it to happen. That's why they liked Vernon Broughton so much in the draft. And I think he's going to start as a rookie at one of those defensive end positions because of his ability to handle the run. And then, these guys are going to be transitioning. That I don't know if you read my column or not earlier this year where I talked to Staley, but they've got Granderson and Chase Young down to 260 around.
Yeah.
They were up 280, both of those guys. I think their natural playing weight's more around 260. Those guys got to be a little more mobile. They want them to get after the quarterback. Their pressure and sack rates have to go up. If they don't, from what we've seen in the past, I think it could be a long year. And they also have to get better against the run. Both of those guys have shown a penchant in the past, or a tendency, I should say, to gamble and play undisciplined a little bit. So they'll make a play every once in a while, but they give up a lot of plays because they're undisciplined and freelancing a little bit. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that in this scheme with the way what they're going to be asked to do.
On offense, do you like the move of Penning to guard?
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's a make or break year for him. He doesn't have his 5th-year option right now. It's not been picked up. This is going to be basically can you make this move? Is this going to be your future? But we saw it happen before with Andres Pete. I mean, Andres Pete came out of Stanford as a tackle, was drafted as a tackle, ends up at guard, and has a long, productive career, went to some Pro Bowls. It happens a lot in the league, and I think it can happen for Penning, but it's not going to be an easy transition. I mean, things happen quick inside, much quicker than they do outside. And some of his issues in the past have been his, kind of lazy fundamentals, some things that have gotten him in trouble. It's going to happen even at an accelerated rate inside, and people are going to attack him and Banks on that left side early on because both of them are unproven.
From a passing game standpoint, there may be a struggle there, but I think he can excel in the run at the guard position. I think it is tailor-made for him. And I've talked about it on the radio show and this show as well. Again, if you go in your mind's eye and look at maybe a guy like Banks and Penning leading again Alvin Kamara on a sweep, that's 2 big dudes.
Yeah, and Penning's fine as a run blocker. He was really good last year as a run blocker. You can see he's got athleticism for a guy his size. I mean, he's basically built like Zach Strief, but he's way more athletic.
Right.
I mean, his problems have always been, handling pass pressure, especially from agile speed rushers. He's not going to face that as much inside, but he's still got to be more fundamentally sound, and he's going to get tested inside. But I agree with you. I think he's got a better chance to succeed at guard than he does at tackle.
Let's talk running back for a moment. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is your starter. They got a couple of veterans in Clyde Edwards-Helaire and also, again, Cam Akers, who they brought in. Again, you can look at some of the other guys on the roster that may have an opportunity to be able to break into the lineup. How do you think that first of all, how many running backs do you think they keep? And then again, who do you think are the odds-on favorites to be in that group?
Well, I mean, I think probably 4 is the number they'll come to. I thought the Akers signing was interesting. I think if they were high on Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Kendre Miller, they wouldn't have signed Cam Akers. I know that there's people in the building that were really high on him that think he will be the backup to Alvin Kamara. I don't know if they would have signed him if they didn't think that. So I think he's probably the front runner. Kendre Miller is the most talented guy in the entire running back room. But can you rely on him? It's not just his injury history. There's beyond that. If you remember last year, he came into the game supposedly with the clean slate, no longer a Dennis Allen, and they played the Packers and he got benched mid-game because he wasn't up on his assignments, had too many missed assignments. He's got to become a better pro. This is a big year for him. To kind of show what he's got, or he may not be here any longer. So I think, he should be motivated. He's got a totally new coaching staff. I think he is the future at running back if they can get, tap into that potential. Otherwise, I'm not sure at this stage they have the answer there long term. Maybe Neal is a guy they took a fly on late in the draft. I think at this stage, Alvin Kamara, less is more for him.
I agree.
They used him a lot last year. He put up some big numbers, but his usage rate was through the roof. And I think at this stage of his career, he's really more of a part-time player, not necessarily a bell cow.
Do you like the wide receiver position?
Not really, no. I mean, the 2 guys they've got starting have talent. Both of them are small guys that tend to get hurt in this league.
Right.
And beyond that, I don't think they have a true number 3 receiver. I didn't see much from Brandon Cooks. I think there's a reason he's bounced around.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if they brought in somebody, if they can get somebody. That's the key. Can you get somebody to come here, considering these circumstances? They've got talent, though, in Olave and Rashid. It's just a matter of can they rely on those guys?
Taysom Hill, his role this year.
Well, I mean, he's got to get back on the field. I mean, I think he's going to start the year on the PUP. We might not see him till late October at best, and I think he'd be back in the same role he was manned in the past. I've heard people say they don't know, because of his age. I mean, I think he'll be fine once he comes back. I think the concern is, he's coming off a major injury. Foster Moreau's coming off a major injury. Tight end, you paid Juwan Johnson. I think one of the reasons they paid him was because Sean Payton was coming after him. They didn't want to lose another guy to the Broncos. So they paid Juwan. He needs to have a big year because there's really no one in that tight end position that you really know what you got right now because of injuries. And
really no one that can catch the ball over the middle with size. So, I mean, when you look at the wide receiver position, so again, he really, as a guy that's kind of, again, a guy that more from wide receiver to tight end, he's going to have to be counted on.
Well, yeah, Juwan Johnson needs a big year. And I'll be surprised if he doesn't have one. I think he'll be motivated by the contract. And for whatever reason, just the last couple of years, he had these great training camps. We all thought he was going to have a breakout year. And then he would just disappear almost in the offensive scheme itself. It seemed like he was never part of the game plan. They never really went to him. Let's see if that changes with the new staff. And we've all heard this before, but a tight end can be a young quarterback's best friend. And they got two young quarterbacks.
As far as the kicking specialists go, do you think we'll see a change at punter or place kicker?
No, I'd be shocked if Blake Grupe, I think, is fine.
Yes.
Punting position, I think, is up for grabs. I mean, you got no real stability there. And that's going to be interesting to see with, Darren Rizzi now gone, how the special teams differ, if they do differ, because Rizzi, of course, is one of the best in the league.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Now, in your opinion, the offense under Coach Moore will be more of a running offense. They're going to try to protect the quarterback, right?
Oh, yeah. I'd be shocked if they don't. I mean, it makes sense because that offensive line should be the strength of the team. They've invested a lot there. And, look, I think Doug Marrone, as much as I respected him as a coach, his last few years, the old line, that Parcells used to say he's retired and he hasn't announced it yet, kind of applied to Doug.
There you go.
And I feel like there's more to get out of that offensive line. You got a new staff in here now, new scheme. I think they can get more out of it, especially Brendan Nugent is a very highly respected offensive line coach in the league. Sean Payton tried to get him to go to Denver, and he came here. I think that is going to be an area where we see guys like Trevor Penning make some leaps in improvement because they're getting coached better and maybe have a little more confidence.
I do like the fact they're splitting training camp between New Orleans and California. I don't like the fact they're not going to have joint practices. I think those are invaluable.
Well, they wanted to have them. The Chargers backed out at the last minute. That's classic Harbaugh, right? And they couldn't really work it out with the Cowboys to go down to Oxnard. They were going to be on buses, and that wasn't going to be very favorable with the players. So I think it's a big detriment because this team with a new staff, a lot of turnover in the roster. You got a young quarterback, could use that as developmental time, and also I think the staff needs it for evaluation purposes because they really, like we said, have not had a chance to really truly evaluate what they have in the trenches. That's why that second week of training camp, if you're a fan at home thinking about going out to camp, skip the first week. I mean, they're going to be in shells and they're not going to be hitting. You're not going to really get much. Wait till that second week and go out there then because they're going to get after it then.
Critique Coach Moore for us.
Well, early on, I like what I see. His practices are very efficient, very up-tempo. He's a very smart guy. Talk to people around the league. Everyone's really high on him. But, this is a whole new transition for him, being a head coach and being a play caller. There's going to be a lot on his plate this year. I do think he's hired a good staff. I like there's a good mix of young and veteran coaches, some guys from the college ranks. He's respected around the league. Considering where the Saints were at, who they had to look at, I like the hire. I think there's going to be a little bit of a long runway for him. But I'll be surprised if he's able to have that turnaround that we saw from Peyton and Haslett in the first year because he's going up against it with an unproven quarterback situation. But I like the fact that he's optimistic. Now, what I have heard is that he's going to turn up the heat on this team in camp. He's kind of been, getting buy-in from the veterans, been kind of hands-off. They've had very light practices. And I think it's going to get cranked up second week where, he's going to basically find out what he's got.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question, because one of the question marks about him was, as a guy that's kind of quiet, how do you motivate your team from the head coaching position? And again, when we see these light practices you mentioned, 7-on-7, almost touch football, what type of coach is he going to be? What type of coach do you think he will be?
Well, I mean, but that's the way the league's going, Eric. I mean, look at, Mike McDaniel,
right.
Matt LaFleur. I mean, I can go down the list. Even Sean McVay. These guys aren't really, alpha type personalities the way we saw with Sean Payton.
Right.
I think Sean Payton's more of the outlier. I think more and more we're seeing these kind of cerebral offensive minds. That's kind of the flavor of the month in the NFL. And I think as long as he shows this team and these players and indirectly the fan base that he's competent, and that he can put together a good game plan and motivate these players to play, the winning will take care of the buy-in. But he's got to get that at some point. And that's going to be a challenge with this roster where it's at right now.
Two great things about Sean Payton, and from, again, writing the book, first of all, master motivator, okay? And then, again, game day. Just excellent game day in terms of making adjustments on the fly.
And also, I think one of the underrated aspects of his ability was his ability to hire coaches. You go back, I think that 2018 staff, they had Joe Brady and Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell and Mike Nolan. I mean, there were all these guys that were either head coaches, going to be head coaches, going to be coordinators.
Right.
That staff was so good. And I think that was one of the areas that Dennis Allen really struggled in.
Yes.
And people, I think, overlook that sometimes. This staff they had here recently was not that good. And I think there's a chance for this staff to be a lot better than what we saw, so maybe they get more out of this team.
Jeff Duncan, columnist for the New Orleans Times-Picayune, NOLA.com, contributor to Fox 8 Sports, is our guest. I'm your host, Eric Asher. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll take a break here from our underwriters. We'll come back. We'll talk Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, all on tap for us. Stick around. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for...
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Jeff Duncan is our guest tonight. Jeff, let's talk Pelicans. I'm going to throw you a little curveball here first before we get into Dumars and the Pelicans. And I want to talk a little bit about the Smoothie King Center and the possibility of either imploding that building and building a new building, or again renovating that building. I watched Commissioner Silver's press conference 2 nights ago, in which again he was asked about Portland and the sale of the Portland Trailblazers, and one of the things he mentioned was that again that they have to get the stadium, the arena situations taken care of. Went and did the research. Moda Center, again, 4 years older than the Smoothie King Center, more amenities, more technologically advanced. We've already heard Commissioner Silver talk about, again, the need for a new stadium in New Orleans as well. What do you think happens there? Before we even talk about the team and Dumars, the future of this franchise here in New Orleans will, again, in my opinion, hinge on, again, a new arena or an upgraded arena.
Well, I think that is definitely going to be on the front burner once the Saints and the state get a long-term deal announced. I think that could come sometime in the next couple months.
Okay.
Like a 30-year extension with the Saints. I know that's almost done if it's not already done. That'll be big news. And then they can turn their attention to the Smoothie King Center and solving the arena issue for the Pelicans. I don't think there's any way they build a new arena. I think it's definitely going to be some type of renovation at the current site. They've already got plans in, architectural renderings, but I don't think there's appetite in Baton Rouge to build a new arena. I don't think there's funds for that unless the Pelicans, Gail Benson, want to take whatever expansion money they get, and they could be getting as much as $400 million if the league expands and put that toward a new arena. Then maybe something gets done. I don't think they have any plans to do that. So I think it's going to end up being a renovation, something to the lower bowl to make it a little more fan-friendly, put in more premium seating. That's something that really they're lacking right now. But that's got to be solved. Whether it's a new arena or a renovation, they've got to get that solved long-term, I think, to keep the team here. Yeah, I would agree, and I think that I think people have to be keyed in on that, especially when, again, you're talking about a historic franchise in Portland, which again, obviously, again, the owner Allen died. They're trying to move. They're trying to sell that team. But before that happens, obviously, again, with Silver coming out and talking about the arena situation, it pretty much mirrors what's happening here in New Orleans now. And again, if we're ever going to get an all-star game, if Mrs. Benson passes and that team goes up for sale, there's a lot of ownership groups out there that would like to have an NBA team in another city. New Orleans has got to be able to step up and be able to have an arena that again will accommodate an NBA team. Yeah, we will not get another all-star game until we get the arena fixed. So that's not going to happen. That'll be the carrot, I think, to get a deal done. It's not a Super Bowl, but it's still something. It is. And I think more importantly, though, to improve the bottom line for the Pelicans, to make them a little more competitive. I mean, we don't have yet a revenue sharing model in the NBA that's equal to, say, what we see in the NFL. Agreed. So there's a great disparity between the top of the league and the bottom of the league, the big markets and the small markets like New Orleans. You can overcome it. We saw Oklahoma City won an NBA title this year in a market very similar to New Orleans. It can be done, but it's more difficult. And I think, to your point about Portland, we saw the same thing happen in Milwaukee a few years ago. There's going to be pressure. I mentioned this the other day. I've said this before. They're talking about a new arena down in Baton Rouge for LSU. There's been no motivation by anybody to build a new basketball facility in this state for decades. It's amazing. The last one of major consequence was the Smoothie King Center. I know Xavier got one. 1999. Yeah, I know McNeese got one, but those are 4,000, 3,000 seat arena. This is a major arena. Just go around the state, go to every university. Their buildings were built in the 60s and 70s. So I think at some point we got to realize, if we're going to try and make basketball work here, we got to kind of join the group. What do you think Governor Landry stands on this? Do you think he will be in favor of, again, using his political clout to be able to, again, send the money to New Orleans to be able to upgrade that arena? Well, the one thing he definitely has made a priority is business in New Orleans. He understands the importance of New Orleans being an economic generator for the rest of the state, and the Smoothie King Center is a part of that. So I do think that will have his attention. Once they get past the Saints deal, I think then that moves to the front burner. But right now, getting Baton Rouge focused on a new arena is very difficult, frankly. I've talked to people on both sides of this. There's just basically been no progress on this arena situation other than getting some planning done to determine what we're going to do long term. But it's got to happen soon because the Pels are just kind of floundering right now without it. No, I would agree. And look, again, we don't know the future, obviously, and you don't want to be in a situation where you're caught if something was to happen to Mrs. Benson, and now you're trying to be able to try to quickly get an arena done while this team could be up for sale. And I would say this, too. I mean, I should make this point earlier. You got to win, too, a little bit. I mean, you got to put a better product I would agree. On the court. I mean, absolutely. It's hard to get people in Baton Rouge motivated for basketball in general, but when you have losing basketball, it's even harder. So win a few playoff games, maybe a series or two here, get people excited again, then maybe you get the attention of people in Baton Rouge. That's a great point. Could you take Joe Dumars and what he has done thus far? Well, I think he's definitely come in and put his stamp on the organization. He's shaken things up a little bit. He's made some deals. I was a little surprised at the draft. I thought after going to his introductory press conference, he spoke about building a team. Maybe this is just lip service. He doesn't strike me as a lip service guy. But he spoke a lot about, wanting to build a team and the image of the city that people could identify, the grit, the resilience of New Orleanians. and then he goes out and drafts 2 guys that really can't play defense at all, that are offensive-minded players. That surprised me. This does not feel like a very good defensive team. It hasn't been under Willie Green. I think it's going to be worse. So I'm a little confused of where they're going, but I do think he's trying to put his stamp on the team, and I think Troy Weaver's making a lot of these moves. And that's who he hired. He hired him to make those moves. So we'll see. I do think there's talent that's been added to the roster, but really this whole thing comes down to, can he get Zion Williamson on board? Can he get him on the court for 70-80% of the games this year? Because everything basically boils down to him.
Talk about Looney and picking him up in a trade.
Well, I mean, I think he's, we'll see. I don't know if this team is going to win, they're going to have to outscore teams. Jordan Poole's an offensive-minded guy. He's not a defensive player. The 2 draft picks are offensive-minded guys. It feels like they're trying to attack the way the Indiana Pacers kind of were offensively and be that team. It feels a little haphazard how they're building the roster, but I think he's clearly saying this is going to be my roster, not the one, that David Griffin put together. And for better or worse, he's putting his stamp on it.
I do like the pickup, championship pedigree, a guy that rebounds, something again that they really didn't have a lot of last year. I like the trade for Poole and Bay as well. Again, the one thing that I think everybody, again, maybe if you take a pause on it, is what he did in the draft in terms of giving up those lottery picks or potential lottery picks for Queen.
Yeah, look, there's going to be a lot of pressure now on Derek Queen, I think, because of that. Unfairly, probably so. But at some point, that trade's going to have to, that move is going to have to pay off because the draft next year is much deeper. He's getting universally panned across the league for that move because of the lack of potential vision or planning down the road. From what I've seen so far, look, this is Summer League. I'm not about to make big judgments early on, but it looks like this is going to, I don't know if either one of those guys is going to be impact rookies for this team. And that's going to be difficult to stomach when you made such a bold move and put so much value into this trade to get Derek Queen. I think he's got to pan out.
I think both players have a tremendous upside. I think both players have the ability to be able to play in the league, but I think both players are going to take time. I don't think it's going to be an instant impact. And what you would think you would get, again, from lottery picks that you pick that high, that they would be an immediate impact. I think Fears has shown he has the ability to score off the dribble. Again, he's got a tremendous amount of quickness, but again, can he handle the physicality of the NBA for 82 games? And then when you talk about Queen, man, look, he's got to get stronger. He's got to lose some weight here. Both guys, again, have to learn how to play defense on the NBA level. And I guess my big question is, Willie Green and his history here in New Orleans doesn't really like to play young players and doesn't like to play players who can't play defense. So how do those guys fit in?
Well, that's going to have to change, I think. And I think that's where Dumars will be. It'd be interesting to watch the dynamic between him and Willie Green. He didn't hire Willie Green. He knows Willie Green from their Detroit days, but that's going to be something to watch with Willie Green going in the last year of his deal. There's going to be pressure on him to produce this year. At some point, you've got to win in this league. I mean, I know the organization's known for stability, but this team has to get in the playoffs this year. They cannot afford another playoff list. In the league, 80% of the teams make the playoffs. So at some point, Willie Green's got to produce.
Well, you have to get in the playoffs because, again, you have mortgaged the future by giving up and possibly, again, 2 lottery picks for one player. And you don't want to be in a situation where, again, if you're Dumars, where even though he said that he understands second guessing and being critiqued as part of the job, I get it. But at the end of the day, you don't want that cloud hanging over you. Again, so again, there is a tremendous amount of pressure for them to be able to get into the playoffs, and that doesn't happen unless Zion Williamson is healthy and bought in. Again, his contract is now guaranteed for this season. What do you think about the situation with Zion Williamson? Is he here long term? I mean, I saw him again at the Summer League game with right in between Weaver and Dumars. Obviously, again, they're trying to reach I'm not going to say kid, reach this young man again. But again, many have tried, many have failed here in New Orleans. future of Zion Williamson?
Well, if you'd asked me, 2-3 months ago, I would have said no. I think I did say no on your show, but clearly Joe Dumars wants a chance to turn him around, and I think until we hear differently, I think he definitely is going to be the building block that they're going to try to build around. But at some point, he's got to be responsible. He's got to take accountability. I think Joe Dumars said as much. At some point, David Griffin and the entire organization can only do so much. You can only lead a horse to water, as they say. At some point, he's got to take it upon himself to want to be great. And whether that happens now, the light bulb comes on, we're going to find out. But I'm sure Joe Dumars, if nothing else, is straight talking with him and putting the pressure on him.
Realistic expectations as we sit here in the middle of July.
Well, I think the over-under on the win total over this year is 25.
Right.
Which is pretty scary. I'll be shocked if they don't win more than 25 games this year. But, getting, the West is so difficult, so competitive. I think just getting into the playoffs will be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. See, that's why, again, expansion is so big for New Orleans. Opportunity to move Memphis and New Orleans into the East and have to deal with the West and all the travel and everything else. Again, we're not sure what's going to happen now. It looks like, again, the owners at square one once again because of the sale of the Lakers and the Celtics. But hopefully that happens sooner than later. LSU, again, media days this week for the SEC. The focus has been on 1-0 against Clemson. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And not surprising, but I think it's interesting that Brian Kelly just put it all out there.
Right.
Basically we're all in on week one. He's heard the noise. He knows about the losing streak in the opening games. But it feels like it puts a lot of pressure on the team. If they lose that game, which I think very well could happen, it's a 50-50 game at best. It feels like there's going to be a lot of questions to that. But maybe they're not hiding from the smoke. They're not running from it. They're going to embrace it. I know there's a lot of high expectations in Baton Rouge. They feel like this team is a little bit of a sleeping giant. I think it helps, obviously, having Nussmeier back at quarterback. I know there's questions on the offensive line, but a good veteran quarterback can actually cover up a lot of that.
Yes.
And Nussmeier certainly is that. And the defensive additions, they're very high on. The defensive ends that they brought in, some of the defensive backs, they feel like this team has a real chance, to not only make the college football playoff, but maybe make some noise once they get there.
Well, he loves his returning players. They were very, very active in the transfer portal. Again, my question is how, and this is what happens when you play a team like Clemson coming out in game one, how quickly can you gel in this era of unlimited transfers?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, but they do spend a lot of time working on that exact situation down at LSU, understanding they have to be on an accelerated timeline to get prepared. They're going to have, I think Brian Kelly told me, almost half the starting lineup projected will be guys that haven't played for LSU as starters going into this season. So that's a lot of new, but that's kind of the way it works across the board. Everybody's kind of dealing with that in this day and age. Clemson might be one of the few places that's not like that. But that is one of the most difficult places to play in college football. If you haven't been to a game there, unbelievable. If there's anybody that rivals Tiger Stadium, it is Clemson. I mean, the two Death Valleys, right?
Yes.
Just unbelievable atmosphere. This is the year that Dabo Swinney and their staff have been pointing to. They expect this to be their year to make a run at a national title. They had a couple of down years, but they had some unbelievable recruiting classes that have all now matured. And they also have a veteran quarterback in Cade Klubnik. So they're going to have a guy that's been through the wars.
Much like Kelly, Dabo Swinney very slow in getting involved in NIL and really again embracing it. We saw Kelly do that this year. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make going forward?
It's going to be huge for LSU. I mean, I think they struggled a little bit with they knew this was coming to revenue sharing coming, changes the dynamic of what we were in. So everything's going to be changed now with revenue sharing. It's really going to be more of an NFL model. I know they went and spent time with a couple of NFL front offices in the past, out in Seattle and Houston. Austin Thomas, the general manager, learning how to manage a roster, not only with the depth chart, but also how you manage the payroll, because that's basically what you have now. How do you divvy it up? It's going to be NFL front offices now in college, and that's the way it's going. I think they've done a good job of being proactive, getting ready for revenue sharing. I think what we saw the 2 years you kind of talked about where they struggled, that's because they knew this was going to be the way of the world going forward. And they certainly adjusted this past offseason. They had one of the top, if not the top, transfer portal classes in the country.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think 7th overall in terms of the recruiting class, number 1 in the transfer portal. So again, they have done a lot in terms of utilizing the funding for NIL to be able to get these players in. Much like Tulane, who's done the same thing. They have embraced it as well. And at Tulane, it's a little different situation because there seems to be such a turnover every single season now in terms of their players. Talk about Coach Summerall and his team.
Well, I think it was a definite setback to lose Darian Mensah. I know they tried to retain him. He was going to be the highest paid player in Tulane history, but they just couldn't match what Duke offered him, and that was a major blow to them because they didn't have anybody on the roster in waiting. And then the TJ Finley debacle, if you will, was another setback.
Right.
So I think the quarterback position's wide open. That's why it doesn't surprise me to see them going after the former BYU quarterback, Jake Retzlaff. He would be a perfect fit for them. Now, whether he wants to come here, I don't know, but that's what I think is holding this team back, the quarterback position, from being maybe a challenger in the American Conference for the title. I think more than likely they're going to be a second-tier team, probably better on defense, maybe as good on defense as they've been in a long time, but offensively I don't see them being nearly as explosive as they were when Mensah was here.
Talk about commitment to athletics at Tulane now. It seems to be completely different than it's been in the past.
Well, I mean, it needed to be, or they weren't going to keep guys like John Summerall around. I think Summerall is going to still be a hot commodity as a head coach. He's one of the hottest commodities in the game, but they have a better chance of retaining a guy like he's happy here. He likes New Orleans. His family likes New Orleans, loves Tulane, but he wants to win. He's like all these coaches. They want to win at the highest level. And right now, I think you could argue he's got an easier path to the college football playoff at Tulane than he would at a Power 4 program that's not in the top half of their conference.
I would agree with that.
So I don't think he's just going to bolt off for any job because he's in a better spot right now than, say, a lower SEC school. So it's going to take, I think, a really plum job to get him away from here. North Carolina was an unusual situation because that is seen in college football circles as a sleeping giant. That's a state school with a ton of resources in a conference that you can win. That's why I think he was interested in that job. And really, frankly, Tulane got fortunate that Bill Belichick became the front runner for that job, or else they might have lost Summerall.
And look, for you and I have been around a long time watching Tulane athletics, and again, they're boasting now about the commitment to facilities and what they're doing. So they're putting money into the athletic department, and then of course, they have been, especially for a team that in the American Athletic Conference, they have been one of the front runners in terms of, again, embracing NIL, their collective, which now has been brought in-house, which again has helped a lot in terms of, again, landing a lot of the players we're seeing now, not just on the football team, but again across the board.
And I think the problem they're going to always have is retention. To me, that's the biggest problem they have. They thought they were out ahead of us this past year, and they lost their two best players on offense, and it was really a huge setback. That's always going to be a problem at Tulane. It's just unfortunate that's the way it's going. But I would say they gives them a puncher's chance with a guy like John Summerall right there right now. The stability on the coaching staff, the culture that he's been able to foster that carried over, frankly, from Willie Fritz. They've kept that it's a good thing out there. It's a advantage for them right now. They're going to get players to come there because they know they can win, and they're getting more and more players drafted into the NFL.
How do you keep a Coach Summerall with the turnover in the roster every year and teams coming hunting your players?
Well, how do you keep Summerall?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be difficult, frankly. I mean, he is, if not the top young coaching prospect in the country, he's one of the top ones. He's always going to be at the top of the list, and frankly, Tulane's not going to be able to match the resources that are going to be thrown at him.
We saw it this past season.
Right, but he's happy. I mean, he's happy there. I've talked to him about it. He's very honest and open about it. That's one of the things that, look, I think at some point there's going to be a job that comes along that Tulane cannot match. But I think keeping him and continuing to establish a winning, culture and you can become the Gonzaga of college football, where you are seen as a good landing spot for top young coaches, and then eventually maybe you build that thing up to the point where coaches don't leave.
Yeah.
That's what happened at Gonzaga basketball. Maybe that happens down the road at Tulane.
LSU baseball, 17 players drafted, 8 high school signees, and of course now Coach Johnson's been very, very active in the transfer portal over the last couple of days. I mean, bringing in some really good players.
Yeah.
It's just reload time at LSU, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got it rolling there now. It's kind of like the old days when Skip was rolling, but it's a completely different landscape in college baseball. I mean, look, that was a home run hire by Scott Woodward. Jay Johnson has realized the potential of LSU baseball. They're the number 1 program in the country. There's no doubt about it. That environment that they have there at Alex Box Stadium, their ability to develop players, the technology that they have in their baseball program, where they can take a guy like Paul Skeens, who came in, who was a great player when he came in. He was All-American, but they took him and made him even better. And he became a generational pitching prospect. That stuff is going to continue, I think, to build that program. They're just a juggernaut right now. Every top player is going to want to play there. Now, whether they win a World Series every year, I don't know, but they're going to be in the mix.
Yeah, I would agree. And Tulane loses 3 to the Major League draft, including Michael Lombardi, who was just an incredible player for Tulane. I mean, a guy, again, when you got a guy that can do it in the field and also at the pitcher's mound, that's a unique player.
Yeah, and he was drafted very high.
Yes.
I think
61st overall to the Royals.
That's what I'm saying. So I think college baseball's on the upswing around here. There's no doubt. It's always been very popular. And I think it's only going to continue to be that way with the stability at both programs.
I would agree. And look, college baseball's always been big here in Louisiana, and especially again with Skip Burt. But even before Skip Burt, when you go back to Ron Maestri, Joe Brockhoff, a huge history here in Louisiana, especially in New Orleans. So again, good times are ahead. Do you like two quick questions? Once again, Saints 500.
I think it'd be
ceiling.
Look, I think if they win 8 games this year, they should throw maybe have a parade down.
I got them at 6.
Parade on Canal Street.
I got them at about 6.
I think they could easily go below 5.5.
Right. Okay.
Just being realistic.
Right. And then LSU, a team that can make the college football playoff?
I think I'm bullish on LSU.
Right.
I think LSU will not only get to the college football playoff, I think they're a sleeper team to win the whole thing.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I think people aren't. There's a lot of criticism toward Brian Kelly. I understand it. But I think people are overlooking just how far down that program was.
It was.
It had 39 scholarship players. 39.
Yeah.
And I realize they've lost some of these opening games. I like that they play these tough openers. Every one of those games almost has been 50-50 game.
Yeah.
It could have gone either way. If they played it again the next week, they might have won it. And maybe some of the heat would be off him. But there's those expectations aren't going away.
Right.
You have to win at national titles now at LSU. He's got to get back in the mix.
I would agree. And then finally, Tulane, you think, again, a bowl team, but maybe not a team that, again, is going to be in the college football playoff?
Yeah, I would be shocked if they made the college.
Right.
John Summerall will definitely be gone
right.
if they make the college football playoff. But I think it'd be realistic to see them get to a bowl and maybe be right there challenging for the American Conference title. But I don't see them as being the same team they were the last 2 years.
Jeff, thanks so much. Always appreciate you jumping on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, buddy.
Jeff Duncan, New Orleans Times-Picayune, NOLA.com, and The Advocate, and contributor to Fox 8 Sports. Does a fantastic job covering sports here in this town for a long, long time. All right, folks. Plenty of ways to catch our program now. Again, there's a QR code on your screen that'll take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube channel or to my website, ericasher.com, between WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV 2, also Pelican Sports Television, our YouTube channel. Plenty of ways to catch the program. Set your DVR. You'll never miss the show. You can catch me on the radio 106.7 The Ticket. I'm on 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com. We have an app, 106.7 The Ticket app. You can listen on the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app. Also, again, we want to also thank our underwriters who make our show possible. Each and every one of those underwriters, please support our underwriters and also the folks here at WLAE-TV who, again, produce our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, Ava Hickey, Margie Ellis, and, of course, the best director on the planet, William Hill. For Jeff Duncan, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I'm Keith Spiro from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. My guest this week on Let's Talk is former New Orleans mayor and current National Urban League president, Mark Morial. Mark Morial, who's a better dancer, you or Michelle Miller? Your wife?
Michelle Miller.
Hands down?
Hands down. She's a better dancer, but you know what? I work hard to keep up.
There you go. We'll hear all about that this week on Let's Talk.
Trees are one thing we can all agree on. Fires and natural disasters devastate our forests. The time to act is now. Visit arborday.org and see how you can help.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV.